I am John Pauley Knapp. I was the first person buried in a cemetery, so it's only natural that I start this tour. I guess you could call me a trendsetter. I was born on May 30th, 1791 in Goshen, New York. My parents were Jabez and Hannah Holly Knapp. I had 8 sisters and 1 brother. I was number 6 in the lineup. Growing up, I learned the saddle maker's trade. I married my wife, Harriet Seeley, on January 21st, 1813. During the War of 1812, I served as lieutenant in Captain Tuttle's company in New York's militia from September 8th to December 12th, 1814. I then became a brigadier general in the New York militia, so that's General Knapp to you from now on. Around 1818, Harry and I moved to Elmira, New York, where I got involved in merchandising. In 1820, I built a grist mill on the Seeley Creek. I was one of the directors of the bridge company organized to build the first bridge over the Chemung River. I joined the Freemasons and became a Master Mason, which is the highest degree in the fraternal organization. I became interested in coal and iron properties, and on April 9th, 1823, I was one of the people responsible for organizing the Tioga Coal and Iron and Manufacturing Company. I even moved to Blossburg, New York in 1825 and managed the coal mining of the company. I left the company after being cheated by who I thought was a friend. I've now had some time to let the grudge go. As a comeback, I then built a large hotel and a store that I managed until I left for the West. In 1830, I traveled west with nothing but wilderness ahead of me. I traveled the Erie Canal to the Great Lakes to the Mississippi River, and then down to New Orleans. I spent 2 winters in New Orleans running a saddle factory. After all, that was my original skill set. In the spring of 1832, I decided to go back up the Mississippi River. My plan was to go as far as I could travel by boat. But then I stumbled upon the most beautiful place I'd ever seen, Fort Madison. I asked the steamboat captain about it, and he told me there was a man here by the name of Augustus Horton who lived on an island in the river who had made a claim to the area. So I bought the town from him for a fair price. I was briefly distracted by the Black Hawk War that same year and had to see to that. I was even in Rock Island when a treaty was signed with Black Hawk. In the fall of 1832, I erected the first building in the new Fort Madison and utilized it as a Native American trading post. I wintered across the river in Quincy, Illinois with my cousin at a hotel, but I returned to Fort Madison early the next spring, determined to settle our town. In 1835, I built a home, and I used one of the stone chimneys from the original fort for a log cabin-like home. I also used the fort's old well. Black Hawk and Keokuk were frequent customers at the trading store that I had built. My family joined me later in that year when I finished the house. I then got to work right away on building a large hotel. I finished the Madison house in 1836, and it could accommodate about 50 guests. It was the first frame house in the town, and it was used for the first district courtroom and for meetings for the Board of Supervisors. Travel soon became heavy through here as folks traveled west to find their own piece of paradise. There was often a line of 100 teams of horses lined up along the Illinois side of the river, waiting to get across on a ferry to Fort Madison because there's a nice hotel to stay in. Along with my cousin Nathaniel Knapp, I laid out the town of Fort Madison. This was difficult work, but something I'm very proud of. On January 2nd, 1837, a reception and New Year's ball was given in my honor at the Madison House. It was at this party I caught a cold. 2 days later, I passed away from what you would today call tonsillitis. I was 45 years old.
Oh my God.
What an honor it is to rest in peace in the most beautiful place I'd ever had the privilege to travel, Fort Madison, Iowa.